what you're doing is you're making a commitment to this reader that I'm going to make this exciting. I'm going to make it page turning, and you're going to go with me on this whole journey because there's going to be a payoff. There's going to be a big, good payoff.
Right.
So,
exactly. Welcome to Pros Talking Prose. Today we've got Troy coming to you live from, not live, recorded from North Dakota.
North Dakota. We're the only tourists ever to visit Dickinson, North Dakota. And that's just because we have grandkids here.
Yeah.
If you want to come here on a vacation, just to let you know, there's nothing here. There's no reason to come here unless you have grandkids here. That's the only reason.
No problem. Yeah. But anyway, so Dickinson. Well, he's coming to us live, not live, from Dickinson. I'm coming from the smoke-filled metropolis of Boise. Our valley's on fire thanks to idiots with fireworks. It's fabulous. So we've got fires all around us. But it's fine. I'm luckily not too much under smoke. So that's good. But anyway, so Pros Talking Prose, welcome. We are publishing professionals that talk to you about the world of publishing. Why do we have any kind of knowledge in this business? Because we've been doing this for a very, very long time. Troy and I are both old editors in the game, and Troy is a long-time published author for years and years and years. And also, we also happen to own a publishing company and happen to own an editing and education platform. And where did you go? Okay. And then Troy's back. And so we kind of know a little bit about what we're doing, a little bit. Not to say that we know everything, but we are glad that you're here with us to see and hear us rant. We also like it if you like and subscribe and follow, because it helps us out and kind of helps us find more people who are interested in hearing our quirkiness. So if you would like to do that and also comment in the comments about, I don't know, your desires. No, we don't want to go there. Just, those things that you want to talk about. Yeah, writing related, writing, author, and publishing related. We welcome that as well. Be kind. I get mad when people get mad and get weird and mean. So we just kick you out because I have a zero tolerance policy. But if you're going to be nice and you're going to be encouraging and wonderful and weird, just join the weirdness, because we're all for it. Welcome. You found your tribe. Today we're going to talk a little bit more technical than we usually do. We kind of go off on these more rants, but today we're going to be a little more instructive. And I feel like it's a good topic for us. And oh my gosh, I'm hot. I'm turning on my fan. I feel like this will be a really good, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is a menopause thing or what. I'm like,
oh, well, and this is the first day that I've been cold in Dickinson because there's thunderstorms and rain, and we got soaked earlier.
I'm glad that you are getting that. I mean, that's good news. Water is somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So that's good. There's water somewhere. But anyway, we're going to talk about the book blurb. We're going to talk about ways to make sure that your book blurb is hitting the marks it needs to attract readers and to fulfill reader promises. One of the things that I've noticed is more and more authors are using or relying on AI to write their book blurbs, which is fine, because it's one of those things that's it's kind of like get it done and get it over with. And it's a short little blip of, salesmanship to get people attracted to your book. But the problem is that AI, something that Troy and I kind of agree with, and we both said earlier, is that AI is really good about being average. It's not really good at being great. So some things that we want to point out about your book blurb that you can use to either write or check on the AI when it writes your book blurbs, so that you can make sure that it's hitting the marks and that you are going to attract those readers the way you want. So we're going to kind of break this down into little pieces and elements, and then we'll give you some tips and tricks along the way. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, sounds like a plan. I mean, I will tell you that AI is good at providing you with a template and a good summary and a good
Mm-hmm.
description of your book. That's one thing that it's good at, but it's not good at the little tweaks that make marketing and like outstanding blurbs stand out.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you're going to run, so when you start with almost any ad company, let's say you hire a company to run your Facebook ads or run your Amazon ads or whatever, one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that they will tell you up front is you need to be open to changing your landing page, which means your blurb and your cover, because those are the two main things that sell your work or turn people off of it as soon as they land on your book page. So when we're talking about blurbs here, what we mean is this is just one of your leading points of copy. And you probably will have several different types of blurbs that you'll write, and we can kind of talk about that as well,
Yeah.
for different purposes. But the primary purpose is to get people to buy your book, to either
Right.
flip it over, look at the back of the book, read the blurb, and buy the book, or to go online to an online retailer and buy your book.
Right.
And so it's a piece of sales copy. And like Stacy just said, basically AI creates an average one that's decent. There's usually nothing seriously wrong with them. They're just not that great.
They're just
Just not
not
that good.
as they're not as stellar as they could be in a lot of ways. And a lot of times when you are when you get one, they will naturally just right out of the gate, they're going to need to be edited. Sometimes they don't hit the mark exactly. I remember one time when I was first experimenting with I created a book blurb for an author, and I made the mistake of thinking it was just great. I just glanced over it, and I hadn't edited the book, so I didn't know all the pieces inside the book. I thought that it just would automatically know all of those and do it correctly. And when I gave it to the author was like, the character that's in this blurb doesn't even exist. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a
I
problem.
had, yep, I've had that issue too with accuracy,
Yeah.
because the problem is in some cases AI doesn't know exactly what, it doesn't quite understand the context of exactly what happens in the book.
Yeah.
So it puts something in there that sounds thrilling, sounds exciting, except that you go, yeah, but that didn't actually
That
happen.
didn't
So if somebody
happen.
reads that blurb and then goes into the book, by the end of the book, they're like, this didn't even, the
Yeah.
promise you made me in the blurb is not something that happened in this book.
Reader promise
So,
fail.
yeah, exactly.
So not good.
From your blurb, not even
From your
from your
blurb.
book. We're not
Yeah.
even talking about that aspect of
Yeah.
things,
So
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So we I guess what Troy and I are basically saying is they meaning readers absolutely judge your book by the cover, right? So we'll set the book art aside, but we're going to talk about what exactly makes a stellar book cover blurb. And like Troy said, there are other types of summaries and book copy, book selling copy that you will write that will, maybe your book cover blurb is not exactly what you're going to use for your book descriptions on,
Retailer.
say, your
Yeah.
retailer platforms, but they might be variations of that blurb. And also it's still kind of, in a way, you got to keep in mind that that kind of summary or that description it needs to maintain kind of the same elements, maybe, and maybe the
Hmm.
flow, because the readers are reading it. This is not necessarily, I mean, while book crawlers are going to crawl through it and keyword crawlers are going to crawl through it and look for those keywords, it is more for the reader, because the readers who are buying on digital platforms are going to read that like they would the back of the book. So
Right.
just keep that in mind. So let's talk about what you should do before you even start this process. And I have a guide that I give my clients when they work with me, specifically about how to write your book blurb. And the very first thing and the first step I give them is to take a break, because and distance themselves a little bit from their book. And the reason is because you guys are very close to your copy. Like you know your stories inside and out, and you get very, very emotional about it. And a lot of times that emotional aspect, those details that you work so hard on, sometimes you want those details to be in your blurb and they shouldn't be. So I always tell my clients to take a break. If they've had a break from their book, maybe from the last edit they did with me, and I'm in the proofreading phase, I consider that the break. But basically, I just want them to have a little bit of distance to give themselves some perspective on their book. So go to the library, look at other blurbs, take a minute to kind of like take in other copy, sales copy, to see if there's any elements or things that stood out to you that feel like something you want to implement into your blurb. Something that you should keep in mind is that you should probably be looking at blurbs that are within your genre and that are within maybe the last 3 to 5 years of published dates.
Right.
Anything older than that, you're going to be looking at some stuff that's probably outdated.
I would say similar to covers is look at the top 100 on Amazon in your genre. And the reason is obviously those top 100 books are selling. So that's why we tell you to look at them for cover examples and for blurb examples, is because whether or not you think those things are great or not, in your opinion, obviously in the opinion of readers, those things are doing something that converts sales. Right. Now, the only other alternative to that is either it's a 99-cent book, which in that case kind of discount those, take those out of your equation, because that means they're running a book bub or some kind of sale. So they're getting maybe a massive amount of sales from that, right? And so maybe their book blurb isn't converting as well, but that just because of the sale price, that's what's converting people, right? So be careful about that. But obviously, those books are selling. People are landing on that landing page and they're buying that book. So if it's a normal price book, whether it's traditionally or self-published, doesn't make any difference at all. Then look at that blurb, how it's structured, and see what that author and what publishers are doing with those type of book blurbs. And that'll give you an idea, is this a good book blurb or not?
Yeah. There is kind of a trend that happened in the I don't know if it's a post-COVID trend or something. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. Maybe I should have, but one of the things I noticed that there is a trend right now where readers are going into bookstores and they're getting furious when they turn a book cover over to read the blurb and there is no blurb there. There's just like a statement or just the reviews and there's no blurb. I don't think that you guys realize, those of you who feel like that's a good idea, I want you to put that out of your mind right now. I feel like that's not a good idea. A lot of people are literally looking for that piece or that taste to know whether or not that's a book for them. They're looking for something that's going to promise that they're going to get an experience that they're looking for. Okay. So before we even get into the structure of a blurb, you should know that this is the beginning of your, besides the cover design, the cover art, this blurb is going to be your second piece to that reader promise. Okay. So make sure that you are being consistent in your promise and what you're giving these readers the chance to experience. Right. So keep that in mind when you go forward into this fun little side quest in your book publishing journey. Okay. There's 5 things. There's 5 elements to a book blurb structure. The first one is the hook. The second one is character. The third one is conflict. Fourth, mood and stakes. And then the fifth is cliffhanger. And like I said, I have a worksheet that I've developed for my Imprint Academy clients that I will go ahead and give you guys a link to after with this podcast. So if you're interested in getting that, I will have that available to you on my website. But this will give you kind of like that structure so that you guys know how to approach your book blurbs. And even when they're written by AI, most of the time they do follow the same structure. It's kind of a well-known structure that's been out there for a very long time. So you will see this kind of like structure when you ask or prompt an AI to write you a book blurb. Just keep that in mind, that the reason it's writing it this way is probably because this has just been the pattern for years. Okay. So let's talk about hooks. What is the goal of a hook, Troy?
So essentially, what a hook is, okay. So I'm going to preface this by saying that there's three different types of website visitors that you're going to encounter in any website you create, on any landing page that you create anywhere. And the way I discovered these was through actually working at a museum and understanding museum visitors, and then it translates to web visitors as well. So there are three different types: one's streakers, one's strollers, the other is studiers. Okay, streakers doesn't mean they're naked. Okay, don't,
because I go to the
although
dirty place.
although wait, that is another type of website visitor, but hopefully not your book.
Not hopefully yours.
Hopefully not your book.
Well, if it is,
But
to
anyway,
each their own. If you're weird there, that's fine. Just don't tell us about
whatever,
it.
however you're surfing, however you're watching, we don't need to know.
Just don't
But
tell us.
essentially, what a streaker is that's a person who's moving through quickly. They're basically looking for headlines. The hook is for these people. The hook, and it works in blog posts. This is why people click on news articles and then don't read the whole article. It's
Yeah.
because essentially what they're there for is the headlines and the headings. Okay. So, but the goal is to turn that streaker into a stroller who reads the rest of your blurb.
Good.
So the hook has to give them an incentive to read the rest of the blurb. It needs to intrigue them. It needs to make them stop and say, wait, what? And then read further. Now that's the same, it's the same for any of these types, is that you need a hook anyway. But especially for someone who is just looking through, they're zooming through books, looking at the headline. Okay. Is this a thriller I want to read? And they judge it almost immediately by that hook and by your cover.
That's true.
And it's that one line that gets them to stop scrolling. Right.
Gotcha.
And this is what, modern newspapers, journalism, all that stuff is built on, is clickbait. It's essentially clickbait, but here it's clickbait, but using that power for good rather than evil. Hopefully. Anyway, so that's the idea, is that this needs to stop them from scrolling and get them to look at your book. So you can have a scroll stopping cover and a scroll stopping blurb. Now, the ideal is obviously if you have both. You have an outstanding cover and a scroll stopping hook in your blurb, then that immediately gives you an advantage, because you've got that reader stuck on that page, at least reading the rest of your blurb. Exactly. Now, of course, as we're about to cover, the rest of the blurb needs to deliver on that hook.
Yeah.
Everything needs to deliver on everything else. It's like you need to fulfill that promise.
It's like it's like having a delicious sandwich, and it can all go wrong if you have a rotten piece of cheese in there. So we're gonna help you so that all the ingredients are fresh. Yes. So I want you to ask yourself specifically, when you're writing your hook, it should be, like Troy said, one or two sentences. They're going to entice your reader. One of the things that they immediately should do is set the tone. So you should, within that sentence, not only be able to, again, hook them, but it should tell them, this is a dark urban fantasy. This is a historical romance. This is a, epic fantasy. This is a, YA dystopian. Whatever it is, you're going to immediately do that in those 1 to 2 sentences. And a lot of people ask me, how in the world do I do that? Like, how do I craft that? Again, now that we have AI, it's amazing. It can give you multiple options, multiple selections, multiple things to think about and use and tweak and use, to give you ideas. But what you need to ask yourself is, what's the most interesting thing about my book? What is the most standout thing about my book? And a good example, a book that we're about to publish, is a really fun one. And his hook is, you're going to say sorry about your grandkids. I'm going to say sorry about my dogs.
Yes.
So if you got your bingo cards, get them out. But
Mark them out.
yeah, but
The prizes don't matter, by the way. Doesn't matter.
yeah.
Fill in your whole card.
Right.
There's no prize.
But
Doesn't matter.
the top, like the first sentence of his is that, oh gosh, and I wish I had that off the top of my head. It was so good. And obviously it was so good I remember it. But oh gosh, and I have his thing open. I had it open anyway. I was working on his metadata today.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of mine that's
I'll get it here in a second.
Came out recently
because it was a really
just
great
like
blurb.
Some families have secrets. Some of those secrets are worth killing for.
Some worth killing for.
It's
that
not
was
exactly
a good one.
like that, but it's close. Right.
This one,
and what that tells you immediately is the genre as well. Yeah. Like
this one,
it's probably not a YA fantasy if there's something worth killing for. Yeah. I don't know.
This one is every drop of blood tells a story. And then Malcolm Drake had everything: a loving wife, a beautiful daughter, and a quiet life built on family purpose and hope. Then in a single night, a vampire destroys it all. It's just literally like, bam. What? So okay, we know it's an urban fantasy, we know it's contemporary. Maybe we have a little bit of a hint that it might be contemporary because of the cover, but then we'll know also that it's a vampire story.
It's a vampire story,
right? You know that
immediately.
Okay,
that's in those first couple sentences. You want to establish that, and establishing doesn't mean saying this is an urban fantasy. It means telling us what your story is about, like the one some secrets are worth killing for, right? Well, okay, that's a murder of some point. That's a thriller or a mystery, because it's not, this isn't going to be your grandma's cookbook or your, cozy mystery, little town story or whatever. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way. So.
I really liked this cover. This was designed by an amazing cover designer, an award-winning cover designer that these guys spent a lot of money on him. He did such a beautiful job. Jeff Brown Graphics. But anyway, he did this book, but the back cover blurb was amazing. Their tagline was, "Victory was all but guaranteed, but the threads of fate twist in unseen hands." So immediately you're like, what? So that's kind of what you're doing is you're creating a question in the reader's mind that they may be intrigued enough to read more, right? Like that's what you're doing with a hook. So that's the hook. That's, and like a lot of times lately, a good trend is to make that big so that people can see, like it's big, and they're going to see it like a headline, right? So think about that. Think about maybe doing that on your cover as well. For cover design, you can ask your cover designer to do that. Sorry about my dogs. The next thing I'm going to let Troy talk about, because my dogs are about to bark. My husband just pulled up, but I want, let's talk about character. Let's talk about introducing. This is the second part of the structure. It's introducing your reader to the character. So what does that look like, Troy? And what are some mistakes to avoid when you're introducing your reader to the character on a blurb?
Oh, man. So introducing your main character quickly, because this is one of those that people ask the same thing. Like, how do I introduce my main character in a way that's compelling quickly? And usually it's to tell the reader essentially whatever it is that they're struggling with in this particular story. So the one of those things. But essentially, what is your character struggling with in this story? So what is this story about? What is their flaw? What is their struggle? And make it something that the reader can relate to. So man, I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I can give it. Well, I'll use this one because they won't mind me plugging their book, Storm in the Glass. This is how they introduce. Now, this is an epic fantasy, right? So you could, if you haven't gathered, if you're on YouTube, you can see that this is what you call a chunky door stopper. It is massive. But with an epic fantasy, you have multiple characters, right? You have multiple things to introduce. So they did a really good job by creating a funnel, right? And they did this way. The kingdom of Ramalia has basked in years of peace, but now a storm foretold in prophecy brews on the horizon. religious unrest, and brutal slave raids from the Kushan give the king, okay, we've got, oh, okay, there's a king, the perfect excuse for a long desired war. Crown Prince Staffer, okay, character 2, senses doom in the coming conflict while his brother, Prince Andric, is eager to carve his name into history with blood and steel. So you can understand, like, already out of the gate, we've got a kingdom, we've got a king, we've got 2 princes, and we know there's turmoil. We didn't tell the whole story. We just introduced them to you, the reader, and we enticed you into a tone and into why we care. Like, what is happening?
Right.
Like,
And again, this is on genre, right? We've got the family saga that's a typical part of an epic fantasy, right? And so
right,
we've introduced these characters, but we immediately know what the conflict, not only what those characters want, but we know something about the conflict
right.
that's going to be happening within that family
It kind of brings
because
it
the
up,
king
right? Because
wanted an
that's
excuse for a war. So it's like we've got this trio of characters, and we know that this trio of characters is going to do battle. If you have a character that is struggling with, like, in one of my early Max Boucher books, basically the main character Max was struggling with the loss of his family,
mm-hmm,
and then he had to take a case that reminded him of the loss of his family, right?
right,
So the hook immediately there is this is about the loss of family, but it's also we can all empathize and sympathize with someone who's lost their family, right? So it gives you an insight into this isn't just a mystery, this is about a character who is struggling his way through this mystery. It gives me a reason to follow that person and to care about them
right.
because that's kind of an empathy hook that you want to create for your character when you introduce them. You're like, what is, and a lot of times you can introduce the antagonist in that particular case as well. So there was one of my, man, I wish I had it in front of me and
Well,
I don't.
I have Baker Street in front of me. Can I read
Oh
Baker
yeah.
Street? You're about to
Mhm.
release that. So Baker Street is another one of his Max Boucher's. This is the one that's about to be released, or was it just released?
Released, just
Okay,
released.
just released. So the again, we're introducing the character and the conflict. Conflict is number 3, by the way, on your elements here. So his says every family has secrets, some are worth killing for, right? That's our tagline, our headline. When Seattle private investigator Max Boucher is hired to protect a nervous financial operator, he expects threats, lies, and maybe a little blood. He doesn't expect murder in a quiet neighborhood bakery or a grieving son caught at the center of it. So again, you've got Max Boucher, who's a long-standing character, one that is ongoing in this series, right? Like, so by this time, you
Mhm.
kind of get the feeling that maybe this is a series. Like, we're not really telling exactly what's going on with Max, but we know that he's an investigator, and he's also been told to investigate some neighborhood murder that happened. Weird, so we've already got that right out of the gate. We already know, okay, this is interesting. It's a quiet neighborhood bakery. We know this is a mystery. We know it's a murder mystery, and we know we've got an investigator that's a PI. So again, really cool way to introduce the character and the conflict within just a few sentences.
Right.
So again, with conflict, you want to tell the reader about the conflict, but you don't want to retell the entire story. You're just giving a hint at what that character that you just introduced is going to have to face. And it's
Mhm.
you don't want to tell how they're going to escape. You don't want to give details. You just want to let the character step into the mess and make the reader see how, like, ask the question, like, how are they going to get out of that? Like, how do they figure
Right.
that out?
And another
So
thing to note is that the conflict in both the one you used from Storm and Glass and Baker
right,
Street also aligns with genre.
right,
Think about each of those things is what's happening in Storm and Glass. Well, it's an epic battle. Okay, that's what I expect with an epic fantasy,
right,
right? There's an epic battle, there's a kingdom, there's a prophecy, immediately fantasy.
Right.
right? We're talking about Max is expecting some blood. There's a murder, right?
Right.
Immediately, that's what we're talking about is that type of a story. So we know the the characters, we know the conflict, and we're reaffirming the genre. If the reader hasn't figured out by now what this is, then it's really, at least as an author, it's not your fault. You've done your job. You've told them what it's about. You've told them what genre it is.
And remember, we talked about when you introduce the character, you want to give the reader a chance to feel empathy and want to go on that journey with that author or with that protagonist. One of the things that you do really well in your blurb, and like, again, blurbs are kind of organized in this structure, but you need to understand that there are some rules that can be bendy. Troy does a really kind of fun thing in this blurb in particular, the empathetic why do I care? It's kind of inserted in the middle. After that little bit that I gave you, there is a little bit more about the father of this kid that's no, the father's dead. So you kind of
Mhm.
get you find out about the baker and how he died a little bit. But the next paragraph, which paragraph, like it's 2 sentences maybe, it says, haunted by the loss of his own family. Oh, Max lost his own people. Max walks the thin line between justice and revenge. Interesting. Now we've inserted another kind of element. And this is where you can tell the reader, do you feel the same way sometimes? Like, have you lost a family member? Do you ever feel like that you've been taken advantage of, or they have? Um, and then the next sentence says, but in a case where everyone has something to hide, the truth may destroy what little remains. So cool. Because then you're like, wait, what? I
And by the
want to
way,
know
thanks for
more.
pulling my blurb and using it as
I
an
know. I
example.
love it so much, but I love it. And then then in this one, uh, I read that, a little bit about the boys, and like I call them the boys, the princes. But the next sentence here again kind of builds in that why do I care? But wars are waged by more than mortals, and the prophecy whispers of unseen players pulling the strings. Now you're like introducing like some mystery element, like, and then you can kind of guess in the next one at the end of it, there's this final, and we'll talk about this in a second, but there's this final line that kind of like clinches it. And Troy has one, and that is what we'll get into on the last thing. But the fourth element is the mood and the stakes. So again, that second paragraph that I didn't read of Troy's is this, and see if you can pick out what the mood is and the stakes. Jerry Baker's life shatters when his father is found dead and suspicion falls on Jerry's husband. As Max, I'm going to pause for dramatic effect. As Max digs into cryptocurrency schemes, of course, you got cryptocurrency in there, Troy, shell companies and shadow networks of hidden heirs, he uncovers a web of betrayal that stretches far beyond the city's rainy streets. So cool. So, what are the stakes, guys? We've got a guy is dead. We've got some schemes and shell companies, right? There's a shadow network, and Max has now stepped in the middle of this big mess. And he has got to unravel everything and figure out what happened. Because when we're talking about big companies and schemes and all that stuff, now you've got things are huge, right? And sometimes they feel unmanageable. How's one guy going to figure this all out? So there's your stakes. The mood is also set because we know right here, things are kind of bleak, right? Things are kind of bleak. So that's a murder mystery, guys. We all love murder mysteries for that reason. If you don't love murder mysteries, I'm sorry. You should. They're awesome. The next, like with the boys, we're using these two as kind of like to give you two genres and how this works. But you've already understood, like there's three characters here and a king that's a little bit war hungry, right? So here's where the stakes come in. With their connection to home severed, a mysterious disease dragging the king toward death, religious persecution erupting into chaos, and an unknown enemy invading, the brothers must race against time and destiny itself to save a kingdom slipping from their grasp. Again, you've got a huge stakes, right? And you've got these two brothers that are supposed to save their father, the kingdom, the world, their people. It's just
Exactly.
this huge problems. And you're going to go, how are they going to get out of that? Right. So what you're doing is you're setting your reader up for this amazing, like, climax of your character just went through hell, right? And you're going to deliver an exciting, thrilling story where that character is able to overcome the stakes that you have set up in your blurb.
Yes.
So,
Well, and notice too that when we're doing this, both of these have a ticking clock.
right.
There's clearly, like, if something doesn't get solved by a certain point in time, there will be dire consequences.
Right.
Right? If you don't solve the murder in time when there's someone who's wrongly accused, well, then they
It's going to
may go to
destroy
jail.
everything.
The trial may be, you know what I mean? The trial may
Right.
start, whatever the case may be. In the case of the boys, they've got a ticking clock. Like
Right.
and if you look at it, like comparatively speaking, Baker Street is a relatively short on the mystery side,
Mm-hmm.
and their book is relatively long on the
Oh, yeah.
fantasy side. And both of them have a ticking clock.
Both of them do. Mm-hmm.
Right? So their ticking clock has to be really compelling because it has to draw people through 800 pages or whatever it is, something like that.
Yeah, it's
Right?
like, yeah, we're
or
820 pages.
820 pages, right? Yeah, and Max has to draw you through a couple hundred, but still, I mean, that's the whole point, though. Even a couple hundred pages is something, right? So what you're doing is you're making a commitment to this reader that I'm going to make this exciting, I'm going to make it page turning, and you're going to go with me on this whole journey because there's going to be a payoff. There's going to be a big, good payoff.
Right.
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah. So there's that. So we've got, okay. So far, let's recap. We've got a hook. We've got an introduction to the character. We've introduced the conflict, and we've set the mood and the stakes. And then the last thing, the sale clincher at the end, is what we call a cliffhanger. Now, oftentimes people will think that means I got to leave like a question, or I've got to end with like a kind of like this ending, like trailed off something. It's more of a mood thing. It's more of a leaving the reader for more. That's what it is. It's wanting the reader to now you've stopped them with the cover. You've now attracted them with your hook. They've read your blurb. Now that last little bit has got to make them buy the book. Right? It's got to make them take this home and start reading chapter 1, right? So that's the clincher, guys. It's the sales closer. And the cliffhanger, it's a statement or a question that ends or entices the reader to ask the question, I need to know more, or what happens next. Okay. So the key to all of this is not give too much away, not to try to summarize your book. This is not a query where you're querying a publisher or an editor and you're telling them about your story. Editors don't care about, by the way, when you're pitching an editor and you're telling them about your book, we don't care about spoilers. I can't tell you how many times readers are like telling me about their story and they're like, I don't want to spoil it. I'm like, I'm an editor. You can't spoil it.
Yeah, it's already spoiled.
It's already spoiled. Tell me the story. But when a reader is picking up a book, they want to know as little and as much as possible. Does that make sense? Like, they don't want to know the whole story. They want to know just enough. Okay. But the cliffhanger, I'll give you Max Boucher's and I'll give you The Storm Beneath the Glass. So Max Boucher's cliffhanger, it goes like this. On Baker Street, loyalty is fragile. Money corrupts and justice comes at a cost. Readers of atmospheric, character-driven crime thrillers will discover razor-sharp suspense and a neo-noir tension from the first page to the last. We are getting in this a promise that you are not going to be able to put this book down. You are going to get like some very noir tension, and you're going to go all the way to the end with this Max Boucher guy. That is a promise. That is a reader promise. Again, It's a different kind of cliffhanger, but it is a cliffhanger that is giving the reader the enticement to buy the book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On this book, this last sentence is, I love this last sentence. By the way, when we crafted this book blurb, I have to end the, I have to tell you guys this. These boys that crafted these two authors, they're best friends. They've been best friends since high school, and they've been writing this book for 25 years. And when they're writing book 2, there's a promise they're not George.
Not George. They can finish a story.
They can finish a story, but they are working on these massive books, right? They've got a huge world with a wiki page, like they've got wiki stuff going on their website. It's amazing. So I'm going to plug them. They've done a lot of work for this. But these guys, when we worked on the book blurb, we went through 2 weeks of iterations, 2 weeks back and forth on this blurb because they cared so much about it. They wanted to make sure they were giving enough, but not enough, you know? But anyway, this last line was something that Todd was very, very excited about. It says, as the storm beneath the glass surges, the gods may have other plans. What?
That is so cool.
It was so good. Anyway, so yeah. So now you're kind of getting this idea of, okay, wait, that storm beneath the glass. And then it makes you, I love the thought that went behind this cover. When you understand what the storm beneath the glass is, which is easily figured out because it's early in the book that they kind of explain that to you. You understand the cover, you understand the perspective of it and everything. It's really, really cool. But anyway, so yeah, that entices the reader to go, oh my gosh, what is this about? Like, what is happening? Obviously there's some things there that nobody can control, right? So it makes you wonder what's going on. And that is the purpose of a book cliffhanger. It's to close the deal. My best friend, just so you know, the key, again, I'm going to reiterate this. The key to these book blurbs is not to give away too much information. My best friend, like I've mentioned her before, she is really, really a voracious reader. She loves to read. One of the things that she will do, she will not read book blurbs at all.
Ooh.
She won't read them. She'll look at a cover, and then if the cover entices her, she'll let her daughters or myself, she'll send us the book blurb and she'll say, will I like this book? Because she doesn't even want that. And the reason is because she said she's been betrayed too many times by authors who write book blurbs that give too much away or that don't give her enough information. And she just needs to know if it's a book she's going to like or not. So that's why she has us vet her books for her. But it's really interesting to me how there are so many people that are like that. She's not alone. She's so bad too, because we'll go to the movies and she'll pop her earbuds in and she'll turn up her tunes during the previews and she won't look at the previews. She doesn't want to see them.
That is true.
Yeah, she's just.
That is a good example. Is movie trailers.
Movie trailers.
Oh my goodness!
Because lately they've been too much.
Well, or how many times have you been to a rom-com or some other kind of comedy where all of the best lines were in the trailer?
In the trailer, yeah.
So by the time you get to the actual movie, you're like, well, I've already seen the funny parts.
Yeah.
They were in the trailer and the rest of it just isn't that good.
Right.
And so there's and there's things, I could go on about the book trailers for Oppenheimer too.
Yeah.
And it was a very horrible movie, but the book trailers were also not that great.
Oh yeah. The movie trailers.
And
yeah.
That's the thing is that, the movie trailers, sorry, I'm thinking book trailers, movie trailers. Well, and same thing, by the way, if you do a book trailer for your book, a video trailer or whatever, it's the exact same as the blurb. You can't give away too much. And the reason is then the reader either feels cheated or, and you also can't make a false promise about the book.
Right.
There are a lot of things about Baker Street that are revealed in the blurb. Like that are revealed intentionally in the blurb because I want readers to know what they're getting as they go in
Right.
before they get to the book, but I don't want to give away the entire plot and the entire story. And there's a couple of twists and tricky elements in the story that you cannot figure out by reading that blurb. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
there's just no
just
way.
like I said about when I was talking about my vampire novel guy, which like I cannot, I love this. I'm like, I
Yeah.
must be a diehard urban fantasy girl because like I loved this book so much. But one of the things that he did are his you know gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? His cliffhanger at the end was kind of really cool. But he's got now Malcolm must decide what defines a man, the memories he carries, the monster he has become, or the choices he still has the powers to make. Because saving humanity may require sacrificing the last remnants of life he once called his own. Like it's like at the end of that, you're like, okay, you've got time against, and he's gonna lose himself in this. And you kind of like I said, it's like he's got to fight vampires, but he's also got to find out who he is. This is obviously an
Hmm.
identity novel. One of the things that I love about this book and this blurb was when I was crafting it, I was utilizing AI to help me pull out those parts of the story that I thought would really entice the reader, right? So I was like having those pieces being brought out by AI. And a lot of times it was giving away the twist. And I was like,
Hmm.
we cannot give away the twist. There is a twist that happens in this book, and it cannot be, if it is hinted at in this blurb, it completely gives away this
It
huge
destroys the reader
moment,
experience.
right? And so
Yeah.
I can't have that happen. If I had not checked the AI and read through this and actually done my work on this blurb, the reader would have been like pissed, and there would have been no point in even buying the book. They would have already known the plot twist. And
Right.
also I think my customer would be very, very angry with me that I gave away the outcome of his book.
Right.
I gave
Well,
away the
more than
hiding.
likely, yeah, your author would be like, hey, wait a minute, you can't give away that
You
twist.
can't give that
And that's one
away.
of the things, like about Baker Street was I like the blurb cannot give away this twist, and I have to hide that twist enough for long enough that it's a real shock to the
Yeah,
reader when they get there.
exactly,
That they're
exactly.
legitimately shocked, but then they go, maybe I should have seen those hints earlier, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Um, but I mean, that's a part of the blurb is again making that promise to the
Right.
reader of this is what you're getting, this is what I'm crafting for you, and you don't want to betray what you're crafting. And this is why having someone so like Brian Cohen and his group that writes book blurbs, he will create book
Yeah.
blurbs for you. And people say, do I need to send you the book? And he said, no, you fill out this form, and it's a form very similar to the one that Stacy has, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is the people he trains to write book blurbs for people, and you can take his classes and get trained yourself. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very similar formula. Obviously, this is a very common, very
This
similar
is common.
formula
Mm-hmm.
in a bunch of different things, right? But in his intake process, you fill out a form. You do not send him the manuscript. He does not want his people to read the manuscript because you, as the author, are supposed to know it well enough that when you fill out that form and when they craft a blurb for you, it doesn't give anything away. They are not
Exactly.
biased by what actually happens in the book.
Right.
But part of this process is if you take that worksheet that Stacy has and you fill it out incorrectly because you don't know your story well enough, you're not paying attention, or you do something wrong, it will result in a blurb that will possibly not sell your book, not help sell your book. And that also it's possible you could tick readers off
Right.
by reading the
Again,
blurb wrong.
this is
So
about reader promises. Hmm.
follow the formula. The reason is, and there's a reason for every element that's in this type of blurb. Now, if you're well known and you have some well known media quotes or something like that, or a really great early review, you might be able to insert parts of that into your blurb.
Or at
But
the
the truth
bottom
is,
or the top, but
at the
not
bottom or the
really
top of
in the
something.
blurb, but yeah.
But people, for the most part, as when you're starting out as indie authors, you do not have that choice,
Right.
right? Um, so I mean, just create a clean, strong piece of sales copy
Short.
for your blurb.
Short.
If you, and short. Now, if you can't do it, because this is another thing, is a lot of times we'll get a blurb from an author, and Stacy and I have done this, experienced this more than once. And then actually, we'll talk about nonfiction here in a second.
Hmm.
But where the author sends us something that is way too long for the back of the book.
Hmm.
Like, here's the thing, guys, it won't fit.
Right.
Like the back of the book only has so much room. You only have so many words to work with. And so there are times when I'll give an author the instructions of I don't want it any longer than 300 to 350 words. And I get a 500 word blurb. Well, okay, that's fine for Amazon, but it's not going to work on the back of your book. And
Right.
even for Amazon, it's a little long because you're asking readers to read more before they buy your book.
And
You want them to
really,
read something
they're
short and punchy and
they're
buy.
scrolling,
But
guys. They're scrolling.
they
So
buy
you've
now.
got to keep it short. You've got to keep it short.
Right.
And I'm not saying like 150 words short. I'm not saying like 20, like because 250 characters is your max on a short description for like if you're going to do a short description on Ingram Spark or Draft to Digital, they want a short description, and that means 250 characters. Characters, not that includes
Hmm.
spaces. That's very short. That's a very, very short little thing. And I'll talk about that in a second. There's a different reason for that. But these blurbs that you put on the back of the book are literally, they're not a chapter long. They're not a summary.
Mm-mm.
They are a sales pitch. They're an elevator pitch. And if you know anything about sales and you know anything about that elevator pitch, it is short, sweet, and to the point, direct, and it entices people to make the deal, right? Or ask more
Right.
questions.
Well, and
Um,
this is so you have to think of it like the thing for an elevator pitch is what we say is basically you get on an elevator with an agent and
mhm.
you're going down a couple floors and the agent says, so what's your book about? And you have that time between those floors to tell them about it. Or a
Right.
reader asks you about your book and you have that time between those floors to tell them about it. Well, the way to get the reader to stop with you at the bottom floor when you're going down and say, okay, tell me more,
Yeah.
is
Or
to
where do
have
I
a
get it?
super strong elevator pitch, right?
Hmm.
Which means you have to be fast and punchy and know exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know how many times that I have had an author where I say, well, what is your book about? When we're sitting in around tables or we're
A
having something at a
conference.
conference or whatever, and they start in this long thing about this is about these five characters and they go through, they're all related and two of them are twins and
They go
you
through
know
the
they start to
plot.
explain this all the plot and all the long things to me and I'm like, no, give it to me quick. I've been the on the receiving end of editor pitches at conferences. Okay, you got a couple minutes to excite me, otherwise I'm bored.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like, and it
you're hearing pitches all day
all day
long, and
long.
here's the thing, guys, all of them sound the same
Yeah.
because people haven't done their research. They don't understand not how to explain and even summarize their story, but how to sell it. Because
Right.
if you're meeting with an agent or an editor, you're selling it. So you need the same kind of strong, punchy description, regardless of what you're using the blurb for. So there's just a difference when you're doing a query letter. We don't want a cliffhanger because your publisher does not want that.
I
They
don't
want to know
know.
whether you can finish the
We
story.
want to know that you can finish the story, but when I'm getting a pitch, when I ask for that elevator pitch, when my elevator pitch, when I'm talking to the authors that come to sit down with me, if they can give me a good elevator pitch with a cliffhanger, now I'm going,
Oh yeah.
okay,
Well, that's
give it
yeah.
to me,
So
give it to me.
that's like a pitch session. You want to give me a cliffhanger so because you want me to say,
You want me to say, okay, tell me
tell me
more,
more or send me the full
send me the
manuscript, right?
manuscript. Yeah.
But once you do send the manuscript with a query letter, really what we want to know is
Can you
we
write
want to
it
know
first
the whole
chapter?
story.
Well, we
That the
want to know
story
first chapter at
itself,
that point.
Yeah, we want to know first chapter at that point, but we also want to know what the full story is about.
Yeah.
And part of that is because, like, and you guys would not believe the number of times when we deal with this, when people hand us books and stories that don't have a plot or they're missing key plot elements. And you're like, okay, this is an interesting series of events, but it is not a
It doesn't
story
give
as
me a
we would consider
story.
a story.
Yeah.
It's not a novel, right?
Right.
And I mean, I can't tell you because I worked in publishing acquisitions the number of times that I got books and stories that were not a story. They were
It
just a
happens. It
series of events.
happens. It
It
happens so
happens
often.
all the time. Okay. So, first of all, if you get that kind of feedback from anybody that your story is missing key elements, pay attention to it, please,
Yeah.
because it really does matter. Okay.
It's
Um,
okay. It's
but
okay.
in the
You're in everybody's boat, just so you know.
Yeah, everybody has done exactly the same thing. But also at
Right.
the same time, I'll just tell you that in the bad old days, when you were querying editors and agents and sending things to publishers, if you send something like that, you just never hear back,
Right.
right? Because you're not only not enticing us to read the thing, but you basically are not delivering what you promised. You promised us a novel, deliver us a novel. And hey, I was guilty too. My some of those horrible things I wrote in college that I called novels were absolutely terrible.
Well,
Okay, and everybody,
my own insecurities are preventing me from even finishing my first novel, so we won't even talk about that.
yeah, I
Because
mean that's
I
a
know how
whole
to do it for
different.
other people, but can I do it for myself? We shall see.
and and also, I mean, that's almost an entirely different podcast, except to say this, that to write your blurb, you need to know your story.
Yeah.
And if you can't write the blurb because you don't understand these elements of your story, when you go through the checklist that Stacy has, or go through a
Mm-hmm.
form, or whatever kind of a formula that you're using, if you go through that formula and you can't explain those elements, what that means is either you don't understand your story well enough at this point, so you haven't gone far enough in the revision and the editing process on your own to understand your story, or you don't have one.
Or maybe, yeah, you're missing some pieces. So this
You're
is a really
missing
good
some
check.
pieces of your
Yeah.
story.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
So
you can't tell us what the main conflict of your story is somehow in the blurb, and you can't summarize that main conflict
in a
in
sentence.
one sentence, then you have a problem. Because the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that you people will tell me, oh, well, this happens, and then this happens, and then this bad thing happens, and this happens. And I'm like, but what's the central conflict? What's the point?
Yeah.
What does your character want? What do they need? Why can't they get it? That type of thing. So,
Right.
so that's we'll talk about story analysis on another podcast, because I'm
Yeah.
developing a course, an in-depth course on story analysis, because it's a skill that authors need.
Yeah.
And the
I
reason is
agree.
because any more mediocre books, mediocre and bad books
Average.
just don't sell. Average
Average.
books
Don't sell.
and poor books don't sell.
Yeah.
Now, anything above that, if you're above average, and especially if you are excellent, it's almost assured that your book will not fail entirely if you follow certain basic
Rules.
guidelines
Mm-hmm.
for marketing and putting a book out into the world, right? Then you will have at least some success. But anything above average and above, you could have fabulous success. Lightning could strike, and you need to put yourself in the position for lightning to strike.
Yeah. Be
So you need
ready.
to write a good book. But so a blurb, being able to create a blurb is a good way to check and see if you actually have a good book.
Yeah.
If you can't
Yeah.
write a blurb for it, if you can't explain it to me if I tell you you have 3 minutes, explain your book to me, and you can't do it in those 3 minutes, you probably don't understand it well enough.
Right.
So,
So
yeah.
so like I said, I'm going to provide you with this like building. I call it building a brilliant a blurb because I love alliteration. So I'll have that for you in the description of this podcast or this video when you get it. But I also will give you one other thing, and it's a book blurb checklist. And this little thing is kind of more like just okay, your blurb is written. Now do you hit these marks? Okay. So just we're gonna end on this note so you guys can use this to kind of give you some ideas. But the first thing is, does it grab attention? Do you think that, and this is a good thing to give to people that you want to read your blurb, and then ask them to fill out the checklist for you. So this might be one of those ways to utilize this. But the first thing is, again, does it grab your attention? Second thing, does it set the scene? Number 3, does it build intrigue? These are things, again, like I said, they're in that structure, right? Does it define your audience? Is it telling in the tone and language of the blurb? Is it kind of helping reflect the book's genre? That's how you're defining your audience. Are you telling us what kind of person wants to read this book? Optimizing for keywords. Again, we didn't really go into this in too much detail, but one of the things that you need to know about your book blurb is that it is another way to utilize and optimize your keywords. So certain things like in Blood Memories, we've used vampire hunters. We've talked about memory loss. We've talked about dark fantasy. We've talked about corporate conspiracies. We've used these words in his blurb to help trigger some of those keywords. Troy did that as well. Corporate schemes. There were all those little cryptocurrency. Yeah, like there was like all these little keywords that you throw into a blurb to help build up that keyword list. When you use those words in your blurb, it helps you spread out your optimization in keyword generation, so that when you are creating a keyword generation list and you're putting those in as your keywords for your specific platforms, you won't have to repeat these words. They're in the blurb. Now you can go out and you can find more keywords to really hone in on that audience and help you find that key reader, right? So that's what I mean for optimization with keywords. You're integrating searchable keywords that will naturally boost the discoverability of your book. And understand and know, again, that AI, when it's searching and it's helping generate ideas for people who are using AI to find things, they are looking for meaning. So blurbs, more than even those keywords just plop, plop, plop listed, this is going to be the way that they do that. So you want to make sure that you are
this will
really
help you appear in AI searches.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Highlight achievements. Like Troy said, if you have a really great Book Life or Publishers Weekly review, or, another author who is a New York Times bestseller read your book and loved it and blurbed it for you, throw it on the back cover. Again, it's not as needed or as important as some people think it is. We can go into that and what how the leverage of that works and how it doesn't, but I'm not gonna worry about it. It's really something that if you have it, great. If you don't. Really, for nonfiction, it's more important than fiction. And I'll say the reason for nonfiction it's important is because it helps boost your credibility in what you're writing about. But when it comes to fiction, it doesn't hold as much weight. Right. Do you have anything to say about that?
All I was going to say is since you mentioned nonfiction, is nonfiction follows a little bit different formula.
Yeah,
but essentially though, the elements are the same.
The elements are the same. The difference, guys, is you're telling.
Hook,
yeah.
You still need a hook. You still need but you still need reader stakes, becomes the hero of the story.
Reader, exactly. The reader is your protagonist, and you're bringing them through their hero's journey where your book is solving their problem. So you do still list the stakes. You still do give them a ticking timeline. You still have to show them that there's a conflict and a solution. You have to make them a promise and a cliffhanger that if you read this book, this is going to solve that problem. That's what it's the same formula.
Yeah. Read the blurb for any weight loss book out there and you'll see. I mean, half jokingly, but also just like if you're solving a problem for a person, loss books are a great example because many of them make promises. Now, some of those are false promises. We don't want to go into all
We won't
that
go
type
into
of
that,
thing.
but
Or books that are designed for writers that
yeah,
promise that if you read this book and follow this formula, it'll make you a great writer automatically. That doesn't work either. But I mean, the truth is,
but
like the blurbs for a lot of those books really do give you a an impression that
right.
anyway, it tells you what a nonfiction book blurb is supposed to be like. It's a slightly different formula, but it has a lot of the same
It has the
elements
same
in it.
elements. It's just flipped a
You
little
know,
bit. Um, and then again, call to action, right? A call to action at the end, that cliffhanger. This is what this book promises. Buy now, start reading
read it.
today, experience this. This is going to give you this. That's the call to action, right? And is there a call to action? Sometimes some book blurbs, they end with just the as the storm beneath the glass, and it's just this left like question.
Right.
But it, this as the kind of leads into this like I have to know kind of thing. So that is a call to action. I have to buy this book so I can
Right.
find out if what's going on. Right.
Well, and that's
So,
common. That's a common difference between the back of the book and a retailer blurb. A retailer
right.
blurb will have something like "buy now, read now," something like that. The back of the book, when you're looking at it in a bookstore, you've already gotten them to pick it up,
Right.
right? So
It's
you don't need the
half
words "buy
half the
now" on the
battle is
back of your
over.
book.
They're holding it and they're reading. Now do
Yeah,
they want to put it back
especially
on the shelf?
especially with that 800-pound book. I mean,
Right.
800 page book. Once you pick it up, you don't want to put it
You're
down.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to
You
I'm
just want
already
to carry it
holding it.
around,
I'll just
do
carry it
some
around.
Pilates, do some yoga, whatever, you know. Anyway,
Todd, if you're watching, I love you. I love your book. And
yeah,
it's not a
it's
door stopper. It sits in a place of glory. Um, anyway, the next thing on my checklist is to keep it concise. And I say
hmm
aim for 150 to 200 words. 350 words is my max. And like Troy
yep,
said, when you get up around 400, 500 words, it's getting a little long. And especially when
right.
you've got smaller trim sizes for like fantasy or not fantasy, you want to go a little bit bigger on your trim sizes, but on like, mystery books and stuff, you're sitting about 5.5, 5.25 by 8.5, 8.
hmm
That's a small book. That's a little book, guys. And unless you want that print to be teeny, teeny, tiny, which you don't want
Yeah,
to do,
you don't.
you have little space. So keep
Well,
it concise.
yeah. Think about on Amazon too, where you have to click read more to read the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the blurb.
How many people are going to click
You
read
have to
more?
compel that reader to read more.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with your Facebook ads. There's all kinds of things we could talk about that. We used to call that in newspaper things back when we had actual newspapers
Beneath
above the
the
fold,
fold and beneath the fold,
above the
right?
fold and
Yeah.
beneath the
Uh-huh.
fold. And
Yeah.
above the fold space was really important because if you could get the person to unfold the newspaper and read the rest of the article, that was a big deal.
And if you
So,
remember the
yeah,
battle of trying to refold a newspaper, you understand why that was an ask.
yeah. Well, and even in websites, so basically, instead of above the fold, we call it before the scroll.
Before the
If you
scroll.
can get them
Mm-hmm.
to read the part before the scroll. So I've noticed a lot lately that a lot of websites have gone away from this. This is a whole other topic, really. But because they have a very large picture at the top, and there's only a couple lines before
Mm-hmm.
you have to scroll. And sometimes, if the headline's not compelling enough, or those first couple lines aren't compelling enough, people don't even scroll. They just
Right.
click away
They
from the
just
article
click
because there's
away.
another one somewhere else that tells them the same information that doesn't make them work so hard as to have to roll their mouse finger.
Yeah.
So,
So
you
you
know,
really want to keep things very compelling, very short, very concise. The next two things, the last two things on my list is test it. Again, share it with beta readers. I love telling my authors take this book list checklist and go test your blurb. Go give it to a beta reader and give them this checklist and ask them if you're hitting these marks. And then the last thing, of course, is to proofread and polish it up. Make sure your
mhm,
grammar, your spelling, your punctuation errors, they are not existing in these book blurbs. I admit there have been a few that have slipped by, and it is a very big oops when you catch those post-published book because it's like, oh
mhm,
no, like we spelled that word wrong, or we completely missed that period or whatever. It doesn't, it's not a good look for you if you have that going on before people even buy your book. Like they are judging you. So make
Right.
sure that it looks well written. And here's another thing that a lot of people say they do, but I seriously doubt they do. Read it out loud. Read it
Mm-hmm.
out loud. Put your dramatic theater voice and in a world, like, I mean, if that's what you
Yeah.
have to do it, because it helps people understand what it sounds like rolling off the tongue. And if it's got that song lyric rhythm that we're all looking for, if it's magic, it
Mm-hmm.
will roll off the tongue. It'll sound amazing. And people will be like, it's striking all the good chords, and they'll want to buy your
Right.
book, which is what you ultimately want to do.
Exactly.
So, anyway, so there we have it. We have the 5 elements of a good book blurb, and we've given you a nice checklist. Again, if you guys want this information, we're going to supply it to you. I will have links in the description that will get you this information. If you guys need more help with your book blurb, Troy and I have also suggested what Kevin is
Brian Cohen.
Brian Cohen's. Brian Cohen is what did
Yeah.
was it Brian Cohen? The
Yeah.
Amazon dude? Oh, I didn't know he
Yeah.
was writing
Part of his Amazon ad school is one of the number one things they focus on is book
book
blurbs and
blurbs.
covers. Because essentially, no matter how well you set up your bidding, no matter how well you set up your keywords in the background and all that kind of stuff in your Amazon ads, the number one thing that people suffer with is they get lots of clicks, but not lots of conversions. Because people click on the ad, but then they get to the page and the blurb doesn't fulfill the
Doesn't
promise that the cover made, or it
that makes
doesn't
sense?
hook them enough to make them want to read the book. So they click, which costs you money every time somebody clicks on your ad, but they get to the page and they don't buy the book. And so usually there's a reason they don't buy the book because the cover is in the ad of Amazon ads. Usually, if you're getting clicks but you're not getting conversions, it's not the cover, it's your blurb.
Well, I will say
So,
Brian
yeah.
Cohen is a sweet as pumpkin pie guy. Like he is this just the nicest guy
Hmm.
in the world, and I can't imagine a nicer person to work
Yeah,
with when it
he
comes to
has
that stuff.
some free Amazon ad challenges on kind of a quarterly basis. And
Mm-hmm.
now he has another one that he offers. I don't know how often he offers it now, but it's like $9. And
Oh
he'll
wow,
teach you how to write your blurbs and how to set up Amazon ads to sell more books. So
good
the other way to
job.
test your blurbs also is to test them with ads, test them with
Oh yeah,
Facebook
you
ads.
test them
Same
and see
thing
if
that you can do
see if
with
your click
covers.
through
It's called click testing.
click testing.
And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, you're seeing which blurbs get people to click. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a buy link yet, you can be testing those on Amazon and see which one gets people to click. And hopefully, you get them to also sign up for your email list at the same time. Don't just have that be a meaningless
Yeah,
click.
please
But
have everything go to newsletters.
that's
That's
another
really important.
discussion.
Or sign up for your pan club or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that's another
We
discussion
might
for another
update that
time.
later. We might come together and work on that again
Yeah,
because that's an outdated video that we did a few years ago. We should
yeah,
probably
we
fit
need
that
to
again.
do that again. Yeah, but I mean, seriously though, I mean, and look, this is one of the cheapest ways to get effective leads is off Facebook ads to get effective leads to your email
Hmm.
list. And if you can click test your covers and your blurbs at
And your
exactly the
blurbs.
same time, hey, you're winning all the way around.
Bonus.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Bonus. So yeah, so Brian Cohen, we'll put him in the description too, because we
Hmm.
do love ourselves some Brian Cohen. And then again, if you ever need help beyond that, publishing and writing, we are your crew. At least we could get you to the right hands, which we
Hmm.
are happy to do. You can join us over at School, SKOOL. We'll put the link in the description. That's our community. It is slowly growing, but growing leaps and bounds and in the same breath. It's kind of fun to
Hmm.
see what's going on and what people are talking about over there. So you're welcome to join us over there. And you can also just find us at printpro.com or at theplotabides.com. We hope that this was helpful and we hope that you guys are having an amazing week. We want you to keep listening. We've got some exciting news that we're about to announce here pretty quick. Troy and I are very excited about an upcoming event that we are about to host, and we hope that it will light some fires under some of your butts. So it'll be fun to see
For sure.
how many people we can get to come to this thing. So we are excited about that. We'll tell you more about that in the coming podcast, but in the meantime, like, subscribe, and follow so you can get that news, and comment and let us know that you've got great hair today.
Yeah,
Let us know.
exactly.
Let us know all about your hair care regime.
Because obviously I do.
Yeah, because Troy needs the tips. All right, everybody. Well, everybody, keep writing and stay weird. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.